In northern Maine, there's a stretch of road locals don't like to talk about after dark. It's called Route 117. The story's about a change with every telling, but there's one that everyone agrees on. A story that law enforcement, truckers, and hunters all quietly avoid. It's the disappearance of 34-year-old electrician Thomas Hale on November 12, 2018. This case became one of the most unsettling unsolved mysteries in the region. It wasn't just that a man went missing in a rural state that happens. It was the evidence left behind, so precise, so controlled, and so unnervingly clean that investigators privately admitted they'd never seen anything like it. Thomas Hale was a practical, no-nonsense kind of guy. He lived in a small rented house in Skowhegan and spent most of his time traveling between construction sites. He wasn't someone who scared easily. He was an avid hunter. Ed Rublung winding back roads at night without a second thought, and he was the guy they called to fix power lines during storms that kept everyone else indoors. So, when he didn't show up for work one day and wasn't answering his phone, nobody immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. The day he vanished, November 12th, he was repairing a faulty breaker system at a farmhouse near Kingsbury Plantation. His last known communication was a call to his foreman at 6:42 p.m. He said, "I'm heading back soon. Roads look clear." And then, nothing. No more calls, no texts, no location pings from his phone. The next morning, his work truck was found on the shoulder of Route 117. The hazard lights were still blinking, the driver's door was wide open, and the engine was still running. Thomas's coat was draped neatly across the passenger seat, almost as if he was just stepping out for a moment and planned to be right back. But what really unnerved the officers wasn't the running engine or the open door. It was the footprints. The November ground was soft with an early frost, and the dirt on the shoulder had perfectly preserved the impressions of his work boots. The prints led away from the truck for about 20 steps, and then they just stopped. Stop. They ended sharply on flat ground. There were no signs of a struggle, no drag marks, no scuffing. There were no other footprints. Nothing to suggest he turned around or was forced off the path. One deputy described it perfectly, saying, "It was as if he took a step forward and just disappeared into thin air." Thermal drones were deployed that same afternoon, scanning the vast woods for any sign of life. They found nothing. No heat signatures, no animals, no human presence, and certainly no sign of a body cooling in the dense forest. The first truly strange discovery wasn't physical, though it was audio. When detectives pulled the dashcam footage from Thomas's truck, they expected to see an empty recording of headlights on trees. Instead, they found a 9-minute clip, recorded from 7:03 p.m. to 7:12 p.m. The truck's external microphone had picked up something bizarre. 3 distinct pulses of white light illuminated the entire tree line. These lights went from the truck, and traffic cameras confirmed no other cars were on that stretch of road. With each pulse of light, the microphone recorded a strange metallic hum that rose in frequency, like an engine revving up underwater. Between these pulses, Thomas's voice could be heard very faintly. He says, "Hold on, there's someone." And then the audio cuts off mid-sentence. The video ends abruptly. The audio for the next minute was completely corrupted, totally unreadable. That alone would have made the case deeply disturbing. But the truly chilling part came when they examined his phone, which they found under the driver's seat. The last recorded activity was at 7:05 p.m., a video that had failed to send. The file was named lights_117.mp4. Investigators poured all their resources into trying to recover it, but the data block where the file should have been had been wiped. Perfectly, cleanly wiped. It was far too precise for an accidental corruption. For forensic purposes, it was as if the file had never existed in the first place. A week later, things got even stranger. A group of deer hunters reported seeing 3 white lights moving in a triangular pattern directly above the tree line in the same area, around 7:08 p.m. They described them as being too steady and too coordinated for drones, and far too quiet to be any known aircraft. The local sheriff's department publicly dismissed the report, but internally, it was flagged and connected to the Hale case. Then, on November 22nd, a trucker driving through that same stretch of highway reported a high-pitched whine coming through his radio-like intense feedback. It was so loud and piercing that his dog, riding in the cab with him, started howling in panic. Minutes later, both his radio and his cabin lights flickered and died. In the corner of his side view mirror, he saw 3 brilliant flashes of white light behind him, lighting up the entire road in a stark, silver glow before vanishing as quickly as they appeared. His report was logged, filed, and officially ignored. If the story had ended there, it might have just become another piece of local folklore. But months later, in early February, Thomas's sister received a phone call at 3:17 in the morning from an unknown number. When she answered, the line was dead silent. Not static, not wind, just a profound, unnerving silence. But she swore she could hear someone breathing on the other end. Investigators traced the number. It came from a disconnected prepaid phone that hadn't been active since 2016. In April, another strange event occurred. 2 high-voltage transformers near Route 117 blew out simultaneously. What was odd was that these transformers were not connected to the same power grid. There was no logical reason for them to fail at the exact same moment. Surveillance cameras near one of the transformers captured a brief, bright flash of white light in the sky, just moments before the equipment failed. POW crews who were dispatched to fix the problem reported hearing a sub-bass metallic hum just before the outage. By the time summer arrived, locals began actively avoiding the road altogether, especially after dark. Some claimed their car radios would cut out whenever they passed mile marker 42. Others said their phones would inexplicably reboot in that same area. A few insisted that the woods themselves just felt wrong. They described a feeling like the air itself was vibrating. One hiker even told park rangers he heard voices faint, distant, rhythmic chants coming from deep within the forest. Even those search and rescue teams combed the area and found no one. The case of Thomas Hale remains open, but unofficially, it's been abandoned. The official report states there's no evidence of criminal activity. But off the record, investigators admit the case file is filled with more questions than answers. There are missing data logs from official equipment, unexplained radio interference documented minutes before Thomas vanished, the corrupted dashcam footage, and a growing pile of eyewitness reports that are too consistent to ignore but too bizarre to file formally. Every year on November 12th, around 7 p.m., someone calls the sheriff's office to report the same thing. 3 flashes of white light over the trees on Route 117. And every year, the sheriff sends a deputy to check it out. And every year, the deputy finds nothing. Just an empty road, a cold wind, and the soft, familiar hum of the power lines overhead. But last year, something new happened. At 7:04 p.m., a driver passing through the area called the police. They saw a man in a reflective work vest standing at the edge of the tree line, right near the mile marker where Thomas's truck was found. The driver, thinking the man needed help, pulled over and started to turn their car around. In the minute it took to make the U-turn, the figure was gone. There were no footprints, no discarded vest, no sign anyone had ever been there. When deputies reviewed the driver's dashcam footage, they went over it frame by frame. What they found was terrifying. The figure standing at the tree line had Thomas Hale's exact build, his posture, even his haircut, and though his face was turned away from the camera, the reflective vest he was wearing was the exact same model issued by Thomas' employer back in 2018, a model that had been discontinued years ago. The very last frame where the figure is visible shows 3 white lights behind him, spaced evenly in a triangular shape, hovering silently above the trees. And then, every single frame after that turned pitch black. The footage cut out entirely for 12 seconds before resuming as normal. Forensic labs couldn't explain the blackout. When the lead investigator was asked if the figure could have been Thomas Hale, his only response was, "We don't know what we're looking at anymore. Tonight, Route 117 is just another quiet, empty road in northern Maine." But the locals who know the story will tell you that if you stand there at 7:03 p.m. on November 12th and you wait for the wind to die down, sometimes you can hear a metallic hum rolling through the trees, a hum that rises steadily as 3 white lights begin to blink on the horizon. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story as unsettling as I did, make sure to subscribe for more unexplained mysteries. Stay safe out there.